One of my favorite things to do is build and fly my own airplane. So having an opportunity to do something I haven't done before in Israel, and that's do some flying, I'm just so excited about this morning. I know that flying is inherently dangerous, and every time I get in an airplane, I know that it might be the step into glory. It'd be kind of a short program if that happens. I've never flown one of these paraplanes. It uses a parachute as a wing and is powered by a snowmobile engine. Apparently, they found a use for snowmobiles in this place. Launch. I've been coming to this land for over 25 years, but I've never had this bird's eye view of the Jezreel Valley. Now, speaking of birds, this rich landscape attracts over 500 million migrating birds every year as they travel between continents. Flying might get a little tricky if they were migrating today. We're about 65 miles north of Jerusalem as the paraplane flies. I can see almost all of the 145 square miles of this fertile valley from my precarious perch on this lightweight aircraft. The valley was formed by the collapse of the mountains, and the resulting sedimentation leveled the valley floor, providing a natural transportation route. The sedimentation also provides the soil that makes the Jezreel the breadbasket of the Holy Land. It comes as no surprise that a land as rich and fertile as the Jezreel Valley would invite conflict.
That is one short stop.
Of course, where there's conflict, there's stories of life and death, of survival and challenging circumstances. And when we see these stories in the Bible, we see stories of people wrestling with faith, wrestling with what they would believe about their God.
And I got to tell you, this is a pilot.
The Jezreel Valley is a place of war. It's a place where Israel again and again met enemies who were more numerous than their soldier count. This land is so valuable, everybody wanted it. So even though it was assigned to 5 of the 12 Israelite tribes, what we find when we get to Judges chapter 4 is that the people living in Hatzor, Canaanites, have come down and occupied this space. One of the battles for control of this region was fought not far from here, where the dome shape of Mount Tabor rises abruptly from the valley floor. And since there's no place to land on top, I decided to catch a ride. We're going up to about 1,800 feet above sea level. That's a good 1,800 feet of climbing. Joshua had brought the Israelites into the land, and that generation had promised, we will remain faithful to the Lord as the one true God. And then they came into this land and started talking to the local Canaanite farmers about how to grow grain here. But they got one piece of awful advice, and that was that the local deity of this space, Baal, was a god they needed to worship in order for the rain to come. Everyone had more than one deity except Israel. This back and forth movement that we have going up the switchbacks of Mount Tabor, this movement between absolute faithfulness to the one true God and living in well-being to the polar opposite, which is adopting the worldview of their pagan neighbors. This climb up Mount Tabor just feels like the story told in the book of Judges. Years after Joshua, the Canaanites became strong and oppressed God's people for 20 years. In desperation, the people cried out to God for help. In the book of Judges, we read that God responded by raising up a prophetess and leader named Deborah. She summoned the army commander, Barak, and revealed God's battle plan to defeat the Canaanites. Deborah told Barak to gather the army, almost all infantry, here at Mount Tabor. Barak was hesitant. He only had 10,000 men from the tribes of Zebulun and Naphtali. He was outnumbered and facing a professional army with greater strength in arms. His faith was wavering. And so at his request, Deborah went with him to battle, speaking this prophecy. The glory of victory would belong to a woman. Obeying the commands, Barak summoned all available manpower to the fight. I can imagine as the soldiers gathered, they grew anxious. They were waiting right here because the forested sides of Mount Tabor were the best place for infantry, particularly when they were looking into a plain with 900 ironclad chariots. That's where Sisera, the general of the Hatzor army, was. And the assumption of the Israelites gathering here, we wait. We wait, and we wait, and eventually that chariot corps is going to drive over to the base of the mountain and come up and fight us on the forested slopes where we'll have the advantage of elevation and they will not have the advantage of technology. But instead, the prophetess Deborah told Barak to charge down the mountain and fight on the plain. They responded with a step of faith. And the Lord brought something totally unexpected that changed everything. He brought rain, and lots of it. The only reason you bring chariots into this landscape is if you were absolutely confident that it wouldn't rain. Although infantry are terribly disadvantaged against chariots on dry level ground, infantry have the advantage when the chariots are bogged down in the mud. And so we know that it's a time of year when rain was not expected. This rainstorm, flat out miracle, a miracle that God gave in order to give Israel the victory over chariots in the plain. The Jezreel Valley is a land worth fighting for. And so again and again and again in Old Testament history, we read about wars that are going on here. Wars that almost always find Israel at the disadvantage, both in terms of numbers and technology. As I read the stories of this place and walk the rich soil of the Jezreel Valley, this place reminds me that one God is enough. Not just the obvious miracle of God's deliverance from enemies with just enough rainfall to turn the advantage, but so much more. Like Barak, when my own faith in the one true God is wavering and about to go under, there is someone who has promised to be with me through it all. This one provides me just enough faith to carry on. And the glory never belonged to me in the first place.